Oh, well, here we are, coming together today down here in wonderful Bundjalung country, down here, a very sacred place down here at Evans Head, part of our journey to creation, the creation story for the Bundjalung Nation. We're going to go through that over the next couple of days, but pretty significant. Sitting here today with Uncle Barry, brother, and old young brother over here, Freddie, all from Rekindle, to which we have the pleasure to host one of the most significant events for us as men here on the Bundjalung Nation. We're going to see how it goes over the next 4 days. We come together here down at the wonderful Camp Coronia. It's been probably nearly 15 years to the day for the last Bundjalung Men's gathering that happened here on the same place, in the same country. And I had the pleasure, it probably shows up my age now, but had the pleasure of being a part of that really, it was one of the most extraordinary 3 or 4 days that we had down here with men in the nation, 15 odd years ago. And from there, we've pulled together an opportunity through a collaboration between Rekindle, the Bundjalung Aboriginal Medical Service, and Bundjalung Cooperative down in Ballina as well, and also all of our men around the nation, and up as far as Tabula, back down through to Casino, out through to Evans Head, Ballina, up across to Tweed, up through to Githable country. When I give them brothers, they're going to come in this week as well, and obviously down through to our Yagle country brothers down there in Yamba and Maclean, coming together for 4 days to look at a few important things for our men in our community. Probably the big thing out of this for you guys, and I open to you guys having a yarn about this, but we're not looking to create role models. We're looking at what ourselves as Aboriginal men, we're looking at leadership. We're looking at, what it means for us as men in our community. What are our roles? Where do we lie with that? What do we believe our responsibilities are? What are our levels of accountability within that responsibility? And more importantly, how do we then filtrate that back through to our communities? And how do we as men start taking our rightful roles within our families, within our community, across our nation, and how we can start to support each other better. But before I throw to you guys, the key theme to the pinnacle points for us over the next 4 days is culture, connection, community, and country. And those 4 pinnacles will hold us pretty strong over the next 4 days, and we'll be working together with all of our brothers from around the nation, our older men, our elders, our middle-aged men, and more importantly, our youth as well, giving them a voice. We're going to do something a bit different. We're going to not just talk, we're going to listen, and we're going to come up with some really good opportunities for change, and what that's going to look like into the future for us here as Bundjalung men, and for the clan groups that live within our nation, and obviously, as I said, our brothers and sisters from Githable and Yagle as well. So, our brothers, sorry, not our brothers and sisters. You're going off there, going right. So look, that's a bit of an entry into what we're here to do. Is it a significant event? Yeah, it is. But we want to come away with a bit of a planned approach as to how we do it better into the future. So, what do you reckon, Buzz? What do you reckon?
I think this is a great opportunity. It's been 15 years since the last camp's been held, where a lot of the last lawmen was alive, and you spent that bit of time and on country with them. We look at the 4 elements of our culture, and that's respect, responsibility, discipline and justice. And that's very important, especially when you talk about community and connection to country and our culture. It's looking at, we've lost our roles over the years due to the impacts of colonisation and government policies, but it's only us as men that can change that and make some changes. With the younger generation today, we're dealing with a different generation too, and there was somewhere along the line that we've lost that. But to regain that is for us to go out there and stand up and be men in our community, not as role models, but looking at sort of them 4 elements, so we can sort of get that down packed, that, that's part of our culture. And it's going to be very important. It's going to be a good 4 days. We're going to talk about a lot of things. That's, we need to make some changes within in our communities. Just from being men, there's a lot of things happening out there, and with incarceration over the years, and it's getting younger. The drugs are getting a lot different today compared to back years ago, and the mental health's it's higher than before. Just breaking those vicious cycles and having a look at our ways of healing practices. Implementing our ways of healing back into our communities.
I think that's really good points you raised there, those around those elements that we need to look at as men. Again, we're not looking at creating role models. We're looking at those key roles that, and how we take those key roles on in relation to leadership. What that sort of means to us now, what it's meant to us in the past, but what we've lost. And I think you mentioned that earlier, what we lost, but also how do we not so much regather that, but how do we look at what we've lost, and also look at how we can, maybe look at some of those things. There's a saying that I have at the moment. It's about before we can go forward, we need to look back. And when we look back, we need to look at what are those really important key elements of our lives as Aboriginal men that we've missed or that we've put down for a bit. Where do we see ourselves today, and what does that mean for us moving forward? So thanks for that, brother.
Thank you.
What about you, Freddie? From a young man's perspective, coming into the space, what does this all look like for you, and what does it all mean for you, brother?
It's been an amazing experience from the first start when you pitched the idea to me. 12 months in the plans. Going out in the community, seeing different men, hearing their stories, and then cross-referencing that to the ABS. You just touched on the mental health in Aboriginal men. It's the number one killer of Aboriginal men. So that's pretty daunting when you look at it from being a young person with a young son. You know what I mean? We kill ourselves more than we die. We've got to change that. How do we do that? We come together. And that's exactly what we're doing today. Bringing communities together, bringing leaders that are already in community and giving them a voice, pumping them up, but also sharing stories, raising a younger generation, bringing them through, because it's their future. But then, also learning about culture, the values. You look at our Rekindling the Spirit, our core values are connect, respect, and power. That encompasses what we're trying to achieve today and over the next 4 days. But it's very, very significant, very appreciative, very happy to be a part of something like this.
It is, Fred. You hit the nail on the head again. I think for us, just hearing, how that resonates with you and being a young dad as well, the responsibilities that comes with being a dad of a young boy. You've also got, young girls in your family as well, but the importance of, setting the platform for your son so that he understands what his space and where his role lies into the future is really important. I think the other thing that is going to be different in relation to what happens over the next 4 days is we've got those, principles, but we're looking at underlying issues in there. We're looking at unpacking what does culture really mean to us.
Yeah.
From a contextual point of view, from a historical point of view, where does it sit for us now in contemporary society? We're going to look at the values that underpin culture for us as Aboriginal men. That connection, where does the connection come from? How do we link into that connection? Or what are we missing within that connection as well? Or do we really need to reconnect? I think they're really important and pertinent points that we're going to unpack again. These are some of the workshops that we're going to be working through with the men. Community, what does community look like today comparative to where we've come from? What we've all grown up with, we all have a story. We need to acknowledge those stories, but we also need to look at what we've learned from that journey to get to where we are now. And how do we take that journey further into the future, and what does the future actually look like? So that's really important. And then I think one of the most other significant parts is that bit about country. We see country from a visual perspective. We see country from walking on country. But I think sometimes we just need to sit on country and let country tell us and guide us as to what our pathways are. What does that mean for us? And I think we're going to have some really nice entries into that and conversations around that as well in some of the workshops that we have. They'll be led by a mix of our elders, a mix from our upcoming leaders, and a mix from our youth as well throughout the 4 days, which is going to be significant. I think the big thing that is also going to be outside that, we're going to be looking at doing some workshops, some traditional workshops on dance, and on story. We're going to look at some of those cultural yarns. What does culture, where does it sit for us? Where are our roles, as we said? I think the big thing we're going to look at too is some of that stuff you talked about, just Fred, that well-being stuff. Yeah. I know, we call it, mental health. I think when I look at well-being, it's not about, most of our mainstream societies look at well-being being something that happens in your head. Yeah. But we know from an Aboriginal perspective, when we're doing well, we feel it in our gullet, in our spirit. And that comes from here. It doesn't come from that headspace. It comes from here and at the centre of our core of our, core of our soul and core of who we are. We've got tool making workshops, looking at, going back and using some of those traditional traits of tool making, making our own, boomerangs and spears and clapsticks and stuff like that, and actually having our own touch to that. Traditional dance, as I said, and language. I'm really looking forward to that component because language is something that really, I think is thriving at the moment and it's starting to resonate around the country. Those things are really, big for us, and I think it's really important that we have that getaway space, but we still get to yarn and connect. So that's going to be, what it's going to be like over the next 4 days. And at the moment, it's the check-in period, so we're doing all the check-ins and room allocations and organising who's here and who's not. And then after that, we'll get into what happens beyond today. Yeah. But so that's a little bit of an intro into the Bundjalung Men's Gathering. Any else, guys, before we move on? No, it's all been said. Baz, anything from you as one of our older, young, emerging elders?
I just think it's going to be a real good time for the men and young men to just get away from society for a while and spend that time, with other men, and we'll see them grow spiritually, and that's what we're going to look at.
Yeah. And I think it's key you say that because we want to make it really clear, and we've said this from the up front, from the start, that this isn't a political event. We're not here raising, the levels of activism or anything like that. We're going to get real about what we're here for. We're not, this isn't a government-driven project. This isn't about the land council space. No disrespect to these spaces. They play, significant roles in our communities, but this isn't about land council business. This isn't about native title business. This is about men's business, and this is about us trying to, get on the front foot around all those issues that we know are impacting on us as men today, and that's really important as well. So that'll be the driven agenda of, if you've got a political component to this, then maybe this isn't the place you need to be, but we're open. If you're willing to put that down and work around those really important cultural components, and I think that's going to be the thing that gets us in the space we need to get to. That safe, and we need to create safety for everyone that's here, for our young people, for our middle-aged men, and for our older people. Safety is really important, and I think if we put all those other government mechanisms to the side, and you know, I think we're able to get to a better space to create somewhat of a different future.
Stronger together.
Yeah, stronger together, exactly. So,
And it ain't weak to speak.
stay tuned. I think there's going to be plenty more in the podcasts. You know, we're going to move this and we're going to take this beyond this gathering as well, and it'll be a regular event that happens through our programming. And we're going to get many men coming in here over the next 4 days, yarning up and doing yarns about where they're at. And we're also going to get other organisations that are here represented as well in Bundjalung and the Bundjalung boys as well.
Ooh.
All good. Thank you so much, everybody. Been great tuning in, and stay tuned in to the Bundjalung Men's Gathering podcast. And we'll hopefully enlighten some of your spaces.
Yeah.
Rekindling the Spirit. Connect, respect, empower.